Hello and welcome. Today we'll be looking at complex change of subjects of equations or formulas. Let's get to it. So let's make n the subject of this equation. Okay, so here um, we have an plus 7 is equal to bn plus c. Okay, the first thing you want to do here is that since you want to make n the subject of the formula, n has to be on the left side all alone by itself. So first let's bring all the variables that has n in it to the left side. So let's do that by subtracting bn from here and also subtracting bn from this side. Okay, so if we do that, what we have is an minus bn plus 7 is equal to c. Now we don't want 7 on the left, so we want to bring it to the left. So we subtract 7 from both sides, minus 7, minus 7. And then what we have is what? an minus bn is equal to c minus 7. Okay, we're getting closer. So how can we have only n on this side? Well, we can factor out n because n is common to an and to bn. So we can take out n. An divided by n leaves us with a. Bn divided by n leaves us with b is equal to c minus 7. Now, if you have two factors, n and a minus b, and the relationship between them is that of multiplication. So, if you want to take care of a minus b or eliminate a minus b, you have to divide by a minus b, right? So if you divide by a minus b, you can cancel out, you only have n. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to divide both sides by a minus b, and this side also a minus b. So the a minus b cancels out, so what we have is n is equal to what? C minus 7 over a minus b. Can you make L the subject of this formula? Yes, I'm sure you can. Okay, now let's do it together. H is equal to 1 over 4 root L. So this is same as we can rearrange this as 1 over 4 multiplied by root L is equal to H. Okay, so the first thing we want to take care of is we want to eliminate the fraction on this side. So to eliminate it, we're going to multiply it by its reciprocal. So that's multiplied by 4. Okay, so if we do that, that leaves us with root L. And also you remember you want to multiply this side also by 4. Root L is equal to 4h. Okay, so what if you have a square root sign? How do you reverse the square root sign? Well, you remember the square root sign is a fractional power, 1 over 2. So if you have 1 over 2 and you want to turn it to 1, all you need to do is multiply the 1 over 2 with 2, right? So that 2 is a power, so that's square. So if we square both sides, so we can square both sides. Okay, square both sides. So if we square root of L, we have L. And if you square 4h, that's going to give you 4 squared is what? 16. H squared is what? H squared. Okay, so we now know that L is what? 16h squared. Make G the subject of this formula. Well, let's rearrange this. This is 2 pi multiplied by root L over G is equal to T. Okay, so to eliminate pi, so first we need to eliminate pi, so we divide this side by 2 pi. We also divide this side by 2 pi. So 2 pi will cancel out 2 pi. So what we have is square root of L over G, okay, which is equal to T over 2 pi. So now what do we do to take care of the square root sign? We square. Good. So that's L over G will be equal to, because you square both sides, T over 2T all squared. squared. Okay, remember we want to make g the subject of the formula. Okay, so this is rather interesting, isn't it? So first let's expand the bracket for, so this is L over G is equal to T squared over 4 pi squared. Okay, so what can we do to L over G to make G to become the numerator? So we take, remember it's a reverse process, so we want to make G to be the numerator. So what do? We do a reciprocal. So we take a reciprocal of both sides. So that's like 1 over L over G is equal to 1 over T squared over 4 pi squared. Okay, that's the reciprocal. So if you write this, it becomes G over L is equal to 4 pi squared over T squared. Okay, so what do we do next? We want to eliminate L. How do we eliminate L? L is a fraction, remember it's 1 over L. So to eliminate L, we multiply by L. Okay, so we multiply both sides by L, multiplied by L. So the L cancels out here, and what we have is G is equal to what? 4 pi squared L over T squared. So now we have succeeded in making G the new subject of the formula. Make P the subject of this formula. So R is equal to 8 over P squared plus Q squared. So remember, when you have a fraction on one side, you also want to turn the other one to fraction. So this becomes R over 1 is equal to 8 over P squared plus Q squared. Okay, plus Q squared. So what do? We want to cross multiply. So this becomes R into P squared plus Q squared is equal to 8. 8 times 1 is 8, isn't it? Okay, so the next thing we want to do is, now we want to take care of R, because relationship between R and P squared plus Q squared is that of multiplication. So if it's a multiplication, to eliminate it, we need to divide by R. So divide both sides by R. So the R on this side cancels out. So what you have is P squared plus Q squared. Okay, Q squared is equal to 8 over R. Now we have an addition here. So to eliminate the addition, so we subtract Q squared on this side and we subtract Q squared on the other side as well. So that leaves us with P squared is equal to 8 over R minus Q squared. Now we are close, we're not there yet. We want to make P. So we have a square sign here. What's the reverse of square? Square root. So we take a square root of both sides. So square root of both sides. So it's going to be P is equal to square root of 8 over R minus Q squared. So now we have succeeded in making P the new subject of the formula. Make N the new subject of this formula. Well, to do this, what we need to do is that make this fraction a single fraction. Okay, so we're going to multiply by the opposite numerator. So this is going to be 3 into n plus 5, opposite denominator I meant, divided by n plus 5 minus 4 over n plus 5. Okay, so they have the same denominator now, so it's n plus 5, and 3 times n is 3n, 3 times 5 is 15 plus 15 minus 4, okay, is equal to P. So P is equal to 3n plus 11 over n plus 5. So we want to cross multiply, so that becomes P into n plus 5 is equal to 3n plus 11. Okay, so next step is p times n, that is pn, plus 5p is equal to 3n plus 11. Okay, so next up, now that we have some of them with n, so we want to put all the variables with n to one side, so particularly the left. So we're going to subtract 3n here and subtract 3n on this side. We're going to subtract 5p and also subtract 5p. Okay, so if we do that, this becomes pn minus 3n is equal to what? 3n and 3n cancels out there, so 11 minus 5p. Okay, so now we can factor out n on the left side, so n into p minus 3 is equal to 11 minus 5p. Okay, so if we divide this side by p minus 3 and also this side by p minus 3, so the p minus 3 cancels out on the left, and what we have left is n is equal to 11 minus 5p divided by p minus 3. So essentially, you don't want to forget the reverse process. So reverse process is very vital. If it's a root x, then it's going to be what? X, because when you square root x, when you square root x, you square it, it becomes x. Okay, if it's a division, x over y, what you want to do is that to eliminate y, you want to multiply by y. So division, multiplication. So the reverse process is very vital when you are working with change of the subject of the formula. That's it on change of subject of formula part 4. Thank you for watching.